I asked you for some ideas for upcoming videos, and therealsalmarcus asked, what are the best products to give your African cichlids quality water? This is my African cichlid tank, 300 gallons of beautiful fish, but the points I'm going to give you can be applied to any aquarium, not just African cichlids. And some of these you probably know already. The last one is probably the secret that a lot of pros use and never share, as to why they have crystal clear crystal clear floating in air aquariums. But first, let's ask this question: what is quality water? I mean, what is quality water? Is it crystal clear water? You can have very clear water that actually is full of pathogens, disease, viruses, right? So clean looking water might not necessarily be healthy or quality water. Water right out of the tap might look great in an aquarium, but if you put the fish right in without treating it correctly, you're going to have some dead fish. So what is quality water? Well, quality water defined for me, of course, is water that can sustain life. Now we're getting into a whole other discussion of beneficial bacteria. Interestingly enough, water, the water column, does not contain any significant amount of beneficial bacteria. Your beneficial bacteria, what is consuming ammonia and nitrite, is actually in your substrate, in your filter media, and on the surfaces of decor, plants, the walls of the aquarium, things like that. So what makes up healthy water? Well, clean. I guess clean would be a more desirable environment for the fish to be in, right? Not a lot of junk floating around. So that speaks to good filtration. What's good filtration? Well, in my mind, it's turning the aquarium over between 5 and 10 times an hour. In other words, if you have a 100-gallon aquarium and you have large fish producing a lot of waste, getting fed a lot of food, you should have about 1,000 gallons an hour, 10 times the 100 gallons, traveling through filtering media in an hour, right? 1,000 gallons an hour. If you have a heavily planted tank that's lightly stocked, and the plants are doing a lot of the work with the nitrates, with the ammonia, you could probably get away with 3 to 5 times an hour. Or maybe just sponges, which are simply just creating a little bit of surface agitation, oxygenating, and pulling some floating detritus into the sponge. So you really have to look at the circumstances, look at the conditions, but I like to be in that 5 to 10 time an hour sweet spot to remove particles from the water. Now, are there some unseen things in the water that should also be removed? Sure. You can remove some spores, some bacteria, some pathogens from the water column by using something like UV light. A UV as part of your system, that can help. That can help. Will it solve every problem? No, but I personally have experienced greater water quality, in particular in the discus and the 90-gallon, with using a UV light. Another thing that makes water healthy is water that contains minerals. And I've read once that minerals over time in an aquarium will tend to settle. Sometimes people refer to it as exhausted minerals, or the minerals are no longer in the water column, and the fish are acquiring minerals through their body, right? So if there's no water in this aquarium, or if there's there's no water in the aquarium, the fish are dead. If there's no minerals in the aquarium, then these fish are simply not getting any minerals. So what do? Well, one way, of course, is to have water changes. You pull out some of the mineral depleted water, and at the same time perhaps some nitrates, right? And you replace it with water that has minerals from the tap and has 0 nitrates. So that would be one way, of course, to have better water, and that's just with plain old water changes. Now, there is a camp out there, a group of people that use deep substrate dirt capped with sand, lots of plants, and they get a turnover going in the aquarium to the point where they really only need to top off the aquarium, and the aquarium parameters stay in a healthy range. So if you're part of that camp, the water change idea might not necessarily apply to you, even though, and this is my opinion, I would still add fresh water, but maybe that occurs with your top-offs, I don't know. But I would still want to add some no nitrate water that's mineral rich to the aquarium, at least maybe once a month, just to freshen things up. What else can you do to provide quality water? You can use products like, in the area of vitamins and minerals, something like VitaChem. VitaChem is an additive that I use in my aquariums, and each time I do a water change, I add a teaspoon for every 50 gallons. It's not cheap, but I consider it a worthwhile safeguard for the health of my fish, and they absorb it through the water, from the water into their bodies, the way they would absorb those kinds of nutrients in the wild. With African cichlids, you can add trace salts. There are formulas out there that emulate the trace minerals that exist in Lake Malawi. Another thing you can do is you can add to your filtration, you could add something like ChemiPure or C-Chem Purigen. These are resin-based filter additives. They're I guess they're in the category of chemical filtration, and I think they're very workable. I've noticed big changes after using them when I had tanks that had stubborn cloudiness, and one pouch of Purigen, and within 24 hours the tank was crystal clear. And that is the secret, the trick that a lot of YouTubers out there that show you these beautiful pristine tanks are using. They drop a bag of Purigen in their filter, and when they show that tank on camera, it looks absolutely floating in air, no water aquarium that is absolutely beautiful. None of my tanks currently have any chemical filtration, and I have no Purigen in any of my tanks currently. That's not because I don't like it. I think it's a fine product. After the tanks became very mature, I just didn't really use it any longer. Another tip that might be obvious to a lot of you is to service your filters, because if the filters become too gunked up, they're not going to capture detritus and things floating in the water column. It's just going to flow around the media and go back into the tank. So do your routine maintenance, and as an added bonus or tip to that, try using pre-filters on your filters, which will give you longer life between a longer time period between when you need to maintain or do maintenance on your filters. The sponge on the outside, the pre-filter, will capture a lot of the bigger pieces and keep them from going and blocking the media in your filter. They'll dissolve down to a very small dust particle size. Food that sticks on the sponge of the pre-filter, right, will get pecked off by the fish. So it'll save you some money on food too. A couple other bonus tips that'll make your water healthier is adding something like crushed coral to your aquariums, because that will release calcium, magnesium into the water, and that can help to make things a little bit more dissolved solids, a little harder water that will be stabler. It'll be less likely to give you a pH crash. So just a little bit of crushed coral is not a bad idea in aquariums. And 2 more points: use quality food that doesn't contain a lot of additives and things that just simply break up and float in the water column, but the fish don't eat, right? So you'll have cloudy water. If you have cloudy water that stays cloudy for a while after a feeding, you probably have food that has a lot of junk in it. So use a better quality food that isn't going to cloud your water. And your last tip, and if you're here this long, thank you for hanging in there. Here's your last tip. Do not let activated charcoal, activated carbon stay in your filters for longer than a month. Carbon will become saturated, and after a while will start to release back into the water. From what I've read, maybe you have a different story, but from what I've read, carbon after a while will become exhausted or saturated and then start to release back into the water some of the junk that it's absorbed. So in my case, I use carbon. If I don't have Purigen and I have a little bit of cloudiness, I might throw a little carbon pouch, a little mesh bag of carbon into a filter. I'm not going to leave it in there longer than a month. I have carbon right now running in a quarantine tank where I had to do a little bit of a treatment for some ick that turned up, and now that carbon is absorbing residual meds, but it'll be there for a month, and then I'll take it out and then put the sponge back into the filter. Okay, so those are your bonus tips. So there you go. Thank you to the real Sal Marcus for this topic. Sal, contact me and I'll get you a little bit of Northwind food for this wonderful topic. And what do you folks do to provide quality water for your fish? Go ahead and comment below. We all learn from each other on this channel, and we can talk about this and a lot more on Saturday at the Cichlids and Coffee live stream every Saturday at 11 a.m. And if you like the channel, be sure to subscribe by hitting me on the mug right here. And here are my best fish keeping tips right here. If you're already subscribed, be sure to check, because sometimes YouTube will unsubscribe you and turn off your notification bell. I don't know why, but they do that. So check it. Make sure that you are still subscribed. Thank you, my friends. I'll see you at the next one. Bye-bye.